And we're back. Welcome, everyone. This week, we have a wonderful interview for our Black History Month special, interviewing someone really important, not only to here in Minnesota, but to us at the Minnesota Cannabis College.
She designed the logo for you.
She did. Yeah, our whole branding, from colors to the graphics to even the font that we use. She came up with all of it. And really, it led to the work that we're doing today, looking so top tier and high quality. So,
yes, legendary.
Yeah, it's
the legendary Natasha Givens.
Yeah. Such an incredible interview. You get to hear about her design work, yes, but also really the reason that we brought her in was the incredible baking that she does. You get to hear about NattyKakes, about the origin from caramels, maybe prior to legalization, all the way to some of the legal products that you can buy from her today, all made here in Minnesota.
Yeah, and she resurfaced around the Legacy Cup last year. It sounds like that was a big moment for her to kind of get back out and show her brand to the mainstream. And we hope that more people find her and potentially even buy her Valentine's Day gift sets or anything else that she comes out with this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just one quick heads up before we jump into this interview. We did have some slight technical difficulties. Regardless, you'll still be able to hear the entire interview. There might be a quick moment or two where that video doesn't align with the audio, but definitely make sure that you're listening. Definitely make sure that you're watching, because truly this is one of those interviews that's going to go into the history books. It's a good one.
We're learning. We're getting better. We're figuring out each other's roles. I mean, it's been so much fun being on this podcast this year. And I appreciate you kind of rolling with the punches as we figure things out.
Oh, it's crazy to think of how much we've already done in the 8 months that we've been doing our podcast. Crazy to think about how much we've been able to do prior to legalization. I mean, we're here in Black History Month thinking about the impact we've been able to make, sharing the message of people really, truly doing the work out there. Thank you all for growing along with us. We've got so much more growing to do.
Let's keep growing.
Yeah. So let's jump to that interview. Truly an awesome one. Thank you all again, and happy Black History Month.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Northern Lights Podcast. I'm here by myself. I wanted to tell you about the February 19th event that we have coming up. It's a Living Soil class. It's going to be held at Modest Brewing. You can get your tickets online at the minnesotacannabiscollege.org/soil. And if you've ever learned...
It's alive!
Are you a living soil?
I'm the living soil! Come and learn more about me.
Do you know Stephen Cornell?
Do I know Stephen Cornell? Stephen Cornell is who grows me.
Aha, you're grown by Stephen Cornell. If you want to be grown just like Stephen Cornell grows living soil, you can grow living soil yourself. Just be like Tanner and come to the Living Soil class on February 19th.
February 19th, Modest Brewing with Cornell Urban Agriculture. Come learn about living soil.
Hey, don't they have a brand new private event space?
They do. It's pretty cool.
This is Marcus Harkis with the Minnesota Cannabis College, and you've tuned in to another episode of the Northern Lights Podcast. I'm here with
Tanner Barris.
Yeah, thank you. And we've got in the studio Natasha Givens. So we're super excited to have you in the studio today. That's what Tanner always says. I'm super excited too.
We're very excited.
I'm excited to be here, so thank you.
Because you're so essential to the look and feel of the college today. You created our logo even. It's so brilliant. So could you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what your relationship is with cannabis?
Sure. So I'm a magic maker, a creator, first and foremost. I'm a mom. I'm a wife, entrepreneur. I would call myself a visionary. So all those things kind of wrapped up in one. I'm not from Minneapolis. I'm actually born and raised. I wasn't raised there. I was born in Maryland and grew up in Naperville, Illinois, outside of Chicago, and migrated to Minnesota when I was about 20.
Oh, so you're a Minnesotan now?
I guess I'm fully a Minnesotan now, which is weird.
It only takes like 5 years.
Is it?
Yeah, people get adopted after 5 years.
After 20, I was like, okay, fine, I'll admit it.
How do you feel about hot dish? No, I'm just kidding.
What is that?
No, I know.
Let's talk about Juicy Lucy's instead of hot dish.
There we go.
Yes,
There we go.
and
Perfect.
cheeseburgers,
Right.
so.
True Minnesotan parts.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt your story. I just like to
No,
adopt
I
everybody.
appreciate it. I mean, what else can I say? I'm a first generation American. My parents are from Trinidad and Tobago originally. So, and I'm the only girl. So that in itself has really driven me and driven my passions, driven the way that I live every day. So.
But what's your relationship with cannabis?
Wow, I would say that it started much like everybody. I don't know if just like in those teenage years, those experimenting years, because my parents were like really conservative Caribbean parents. They told me if I ever tried drugs that I would end up like homeless on the streets, essentially. And I was like terrified of that. But much like teenagers, you know, like in high school, I experimented with my homegirls. I had a boyfriend at the time that honestly was the first person to roll a piece of foil up, and we sat in his parents' bathroom and got high, and then ate a cake afterwards, like a whole cherry cake afterwards. And it was like I remember it being the most magnificent cake I had ever had, because like my taste buds were all on fire, and I'm like, I don't think I'm high though. And I was. So yeah.
I'm not high, but man, this cake sure is good.
It's delicious. So
Never tasted sweeter.
I've always been in proximity to it. I feel like growing up in a Chicago suburb, it's like a cigarette. You know, it was always accessible and available. And I never saw it as a drug after that, honestly. Like it was never a gateway for me either. It never was a gateway for me. Actually, I'm purely like a plant medicine girl. So
Me too.
yeah.
Well, except for my boy. Well, like I remember when we legalized the low dose edibles, and I hit y'all up like, it's time to bring a brand above ground.
Yes,
Then we had that event. We had the first THC vendor fair. And y'all sold out in like 30 minutes. I mean, can you tell people about your business, NattyKakes? What's the story of this?
Wow. So I was in the corporate world for like 15 years as an art director and designer for a couple of Fortune 500 companies. And I loved it. I'm very passionate about design. I'm very passionate about art in general. I love art directing, art design. And so it was being a creative in that world, you get kind of boxed in. So I started baking cakes and using my outlet that way. And like, I really found it fulfilling. Like it was supplementing my creative, like just my creative drive outside of the workplace. So I started baking, and people were like, oh my gosh, and this was out THC. They're like, you have to do this for a business. Like, what? You have to do this. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, my career is going to be way more lucrative. You know, and honestly, I was like dying inside working corporate. I would go into the office in tears. And my manager is just like, you know, I promised one day it would make sense. And I faced more adversity in the corporate world than I do in the cannabis world.
Not surprised though.
Yeah. And that's really how like my business came to be. In 2013, a cousin of mine came to me literally with a pound of canna butter. It was the first time I've ever seen it. Just dropped a Tupperware of canna butter and was like, yeah, I know you bake. So can you make me some caramels with this? And I literally was like, what is this? Wait, what? And of course I knew what weed is. I had never seen canna butter though before.
When was this?
2013.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
About a decade ago.
So that was my first kind of experience with cooking with it.
How long had you been doing the cakes before that point?
About 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I mean, you're hearing the story of NattyKakes right here on the Northern Lights podcast, unlike any other place. Yeah.
It was I felt excited about it, you know, because it was like, okay, cool. I mean, obviously at that time, we were nowhere near legalization. But for me, I mean, coming from the islands, and again, from early on, I was like, I never criminalized marijuana. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make some caramels with it. Little did I know, it stunk my whole kitchen up. And I was renting at the time. So it was like, oh my God, what? I cannot do this again. My neighbors will like call the officials on me.
For sure.
I got an email one time. It's like, Mr. Harkis, we've observed the odor of marijuana coming from your apartment.
Oh,
And I said, what the fuck are you doing sniffing around my door?
period. Okay. Yeah, and I gave him literally like a couple of shoe boxes of caramels, and he came back within a
Couple
few.
of shoe boxes. Damn.
Literally, yeah. He came back within a few days, and he's like, "I need more of them, please." I sold out. Oh my God, what? And I was like, "No, I cannot make any more caramels for you." But thanks for letting me try. He's like, that sat with me for a long time. That sat with me for a long time through my career, because I didn't leave that particular place until about 2016. So it was like 3 years I was just sitting on it like, oh, I really enjoyed it, you know? And around that time when I left in 2016, there was a show around that time called Bong Appetit.
Yeah. Oh, on Vice.
Oh
Such
my
a good
God.
show.
Amazing. Sparked me immediately. Me and my husband were sitting there watching it, and I was like, something, I'm not even playing when I say this, something inside of me was called, like a higher level was called to action. And I fell in love with the idea of cooking, baking. Everybody was enjoying it, enjoying the basics of life, right? Like good food, friendship, great conversation, marijuana. Like, what? High vibes. I need to be a part of this. And I was had left my corporate job to work for a local cosmetic surgeon who wanted me to help his national brand. I did that, and after 2 years, again, I felt, no, this isn't it. And with really just like long talks with my husband, like scared, like what I can't, I know I can't stay here. So what is the next move? Like, of course, I was making cakes. It's like, let me dig into cannabis. Let me dig into that. Because I had always dreamed of having a bakery with a flip side that was, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like Alice in Wonderland. So he really like encouraged me, and I took a huge risk, like took my money out, took my 401k, paid like 8 months rent, you know, for us. My husband was also in transition with his job. It's a complete leap of faith. Lost $5,000 buying bullshit weed. I mean, you know what I mean? And I honestly felt the whole time, I feel like marijuana has a spirit to it, and an energy. With the males in the room, I want to say it's a goddess energy.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, and so I felt like, especially with the plant being female.
I typically like women more than men.
Okay. But like, I was like, I always paid like homage to the plant, and was like, I know it's going to come back around. That energy that I give to the plant is going to come back around for me. It's going to make sense. And I kept consistent. Like, you can take those big hits, especially at first, when you really don't have that much money, and it feels like it's crushing. It's like, what am I even doing? At the time, it was still illegal. So, yeah, that's the start of NattyKakes. I mean, with big risk, there comes big responsibility, but also big faith. And I believe in the magic. I believe in the plant. like to the core of me. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. Well, and we haven't really told the story of like the Minnesota Cannabis College and sort of the founding of this. But it's funny you say it's that TV show, because the host Abdullah, he runs a podcast called Great Moments in Weed History. They talked about really the importance of education and upstarting cannabis industry. This was way back in 2019, and 4 years later, here we are. Yeah. So cool to hear sort of that same, seeing people do the work and really having that connection and saying like, oh shit, this is my path.
Yeah.
I just need to walk it.
And be okay with it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of, I mean, I don't think my parents knew about it for like at least a year until they caught wind of it. And by that point, it didn't matter if they were okay with it. It was like, I'm really good at this and I love it. And I did the research. I really dug in and did research. I did all the things. I did the education. And so like it wasn't like a fly-by-night money scheme for me. So
what was so you talked about the caramels after you sort of started up and doing this a lot more. What was the reaction you were getting from people on some of your baked goods? I mean, we all sort of know the reaction you were getting, but tell the listeners a little bit about
Legendary.
that.
Oh, thank you. So that first batch of caramels that I made for my cousin, I had no idea like what the reaction was on the street, obviously, because he took it and sold it and everything was his. Everything was his.
He didn't give you a cut?
He got no. Oh. Nah, I did it on the strength. Really? I did it on the strength, Vic. You know I did it on the strength. So, but I appreciate him for giving me that moment because it lit my fire. But so caramels were the first. I didn't get a reaction from that. So the second time it was that 2018. I made my first Alien OG cookie, sugar cookie. And it was super bougie. It had gold flake on it and the sprinkles, because I love all that.
She makes luxury cakes.
Luxury.
NattyKakes.
But affordable. So anyway, so I made that Alien OG cookie, and I was like, because I had been experimenting with my formula, I had to like get taste testers, obviously. And I gave one to a really close friend of mine. She does Lacey Klein, and she was my acupuncturist. She's an amazing healer. And I gave her one, and I was like, okay, well, just try it. Maybe split it in half. I'm just kind of gauging the potency and making sure, things are all right. Wow. The next day, she texted me and she's like, "Oh, it was a great experience. I loved it. Like, but I gave the other half to Harv, and yeah, he kind of had a meltdown." And I was just like, "Oh no!" So I felt terrible. Honestly, I feel terrible. I feel terrible.
High as fuck.
Yeah, he did, and she knew. Of course, like, drink water, just sleep it off, you'll be fine. But I hate misdosing people. Yeah. Like, I hate that because I know how that feels, and I that's not enjoyable by any means. But I did tell him that you'll never get that high again now. So you're good.
Yep.
I mean, it is possible if he wants to.
But true. But
like, I love getting very high, but not too high.
Yeah.
You're like, when is this going to end?
Agree. So I want people to still feel good and enjoy themselves. But my first cookie was a cookie. It was a sugar cookie from a batch of Alien OG. Yeah.
How does it feel crossing over, like going mainstream, being at the Legacy Cup, being here promoting your brand? Like,
it's really unreal, truly. Like, I was just telling him, like, the people that have, like, followed me on Instagram from 4 years ago, like, like he was saying, like, I was one of the first people that had kind of popped up in the area that was doing things openly.
Yeah.
And fast forward now to here, I'm just like, I'm blown away. I'm living my wildest dreams, truly. Even if like I'm not even gonna manifest that, so let me not say that. But I feel like we're just on the cusp, right? So I don't want to be too free and say like it's all going to be roses from here. But I'm like so excited about it. The Cannabis Cup, like, let's talk about that, because the Legacy Cannabis Cup was so profound for me and like a pivotal point. It taught me so much. And off the gate, I was telling my husband, like, I got to do this year. I may have reached out to you, like, hey, like, what is up with this? And then once I looked at the paperwork and what was entailed, I was terrified. Let's be real. Like, it was terrifying for a woman business owner, just kind of like, this is a new market, which was once illegal.
Recently.
Yeah. And so on paper, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, there's so much. So I was just like, oh my gosh, this paperwork, I don't know. It was scary. Kay Fear, who was coordinating, amazing, reached out to me and was like, hey, people have been dropping your name. Are you going to vend? And I'm like, I want to.
I mean, you make the best edibles in Minnesota. Let's just put that out there.
You're too kind. But
I'm not exaggerating.
You're too kind. Thank you.
No cap, as my children say.
Ooh. You heard it from Marcus Harkins, okay? Marcus for president.
We review products, and if people put their products up there, there's a chance that we're not gonna like it, and we're not gonna lie about it. So we
truth is everything.
You get the most credible reviews here.
Thank you.
And I am biased, but I'm not exaggerating.
But I can think of few people in Minnesota that have tried more edibles than Marcus Argus.
And I don't even fuck with edibles.
I know that's it. Yeah.
Sure you don't.
They be getting me too high. I'm like, oh shit. Weighted mental blanket feeling.
So
I need to learn how to dose too.
one question that I have for you, and I know this is a tough one, but for a baker like yourself, what are some of the things that you're making now? You talked about that cookie, you talked about the caramels, but today, what are some of the things that you're really proud of that come out of the kitchen that are enjoyed?
So I originally based my brand, the founding kind of like beginning brand, off of like classic stoner treats. So like a remake of the Fruity Pebbles. You get I have my Pebble Packs, and also my Rocket Bars. The Rice Krispie bar, the extra gooey brownie. Like, I mean, that's like you all have, like, if you're, a stoner in high school, you just remember these kind of things. So it's like, I always wanted to incorporate classic stoner treats. The caramels, my OG caramels, I always is like a throwback to that first time I had to make them, like always giving, respect to like the first kind of points of where I met cannabis. And then I started to expand into infuse like cakes and pastries, and which really excites me. Other like really amazing brands, edible makers locally here, at the Legacy Cup actually came to me and was like, we'd love to collab. And like some of those bigger brands, I can't wait to collab with them. I cannot wait to collab with them. Like, what? Yes. So, and just even farms, even the guys that, are really into the science of it, like, put me in that room. Like, I want to dive deeper into what this could be, especially in consumption and food. And a lot of my clients are civil servants. They can't smoke, can't smell like it. A lot of my I say patients, but a lot of my clients are also cancer patients. And that's one of the reasons I was late, because a delivery was like, I value that. Like, I respect that. Like, this is medicine for them, and I'm going to treat it as such. So, yeah, let's untap what the full potential and magic of this plant. I feel like we haven't even,
No, there's so much more to explore with that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question.
But first, we're going to take a short break.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Andy, we met a couple months back, actually, at the launch of the event space. I was able to come out.
Yeah.
Granny's brought me out, sort of showed me a little bit, and we started talking about, some of the cool possibilities of the cannabis industry here in Minnesota, some of the things that we can be adding to beverages. And one of the ones that we both kept coming back to was not just putting the THC, not just putting the cannabinoids themselves in it, but really looking at that full profile and adding in more of that terpene side.
Yeah, and that's a bold new frontier for us too, to be able to really double down on this is a cannabis product. And for me, it's a little bit of validation again from early days of especially on the mango passion, having customers go, it kind of tastes like weed. No, it doesn't. I'll give you something that tastes like weed. This is for you guys.
It's so cool being able to figure out how can we, like you said, take that flavor of cannabis that people have been saying they taste and say, no, but actually we are going to include that and really center it as something that's dominant. And, we picked the name Northern Lights for the podcast to really help illuminate the cannabis industry here in Minnesota. But, the reason we picked it is because it's one of those classic cannabis strains of cannabis cultivars that people have been growing here in the States for decades. Mm-hmm. And we're excited to really bring that flavor out with the beverage that we're working with you on. So thanks for allowing us to really bring cannabis forward and tell people this is what this is. Right. Like, yeah. All right, and we're back. So, Marcus, right before the break, you were about to ask a question. I'm so sorry I cut you off.
No.
Go ahead.
It was good timing, so we could actually record it. So, if somebody's interested in baking cannabis at home, what advice do you have for them? For personal use, if somebody wants to follow in your footsteps, which they couldn't.
They absolutely could, but
they could be the runner-up.
That education. Like you said, like Tanner said, it's the education piece. There's so much free knowledge on the internet from reliable sources that you can just spend hours, honestly, just doing your own research and building. Because although I was given that first pound of butter, I had no idea how to make it. I didn't know. I didn't know how much was even infused in that butter. And I remember going back to him and being like, wait, how do you make this? What? And he's like, I don't know. It's just given to me. So it was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And I really had to figure it out. So when a lot of people come to me and ask hey, give me the steps. I'm like, I can't give you the steps because one, I feel like it's such a personal thing. You have to do that research. You have to dig in. You have to find your own magic and recipe.
So you never thought about doing
premium flour?
classes?
I always do. I never say don't get flour that you're not aware of where it was sourced,
Right.
what the percentages are, the important things, right? Always know that. Don't ever buy weed off the street and think that you're going to make a premium edible. I'm looking at y'all in the face. Don't do it. One, it can be harmful, but two, it's not going to be anything that you want to put your name on, for a long-term wise, at least. So that is honestly, I tell people out the gate, know your flower, education.
I love that. Yeah,
passion.
Oh, passion. That is a big one. I think the education is important, but it can only get you so far if you don't love it,
You have to love it.
Otherwise, you can't make good products.
Yeah, I have a lot of bakers that love baking, but they're terrified of experimenting with THC, and it really is. You take the fear out when you learn and educate yourself and get familiar with the plant.
Do you have plans to scale up so that your products are in all the retail outlets in Minnesota? Or are you going to be more exclusive? Because it seems like you make artisanal edibles, which means you could never be having a Hershey's factory.
My Willy Wonka factory? You're telling me I can't have a Willy Wonka factory?
Well, I think you could, But I believe once people get to mass production,
I know.
it loses the soul.
It's magic.
You know, it becomes more like.
I know.
You want factory made NattyKakes?
So, honestly, like my vision is to be a national brand.
Okay.
But when I say that, I don't think of it inside of dispensaries. I think of it like, have you ever been to Voodoo Donuts?
I've heard of it. I've never been there.
Yeah. So it's just like this real eclectic, dope bakery. I think they only have like 2 locations, maybe one in LA, one in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I can see my brand being like that. I still want it to be very much fresh baked. I don't have nothing sits on a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Literally every order is fresh baked. And so I do see things like maybe my cookies and my bars and my caramels or candies in stores. But that's still up to question. You know what I mean? I'm still building out that vision. But ideally, I see it like bakery locations.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. I'd go to a bakery and buy one of those cakes. That's for sure.
Right?
So would you call it the NattyKakes Bakery?
Well, so originally my non-infused cake business that started before was called Cream Cakery. And it was short for Cake Rules Everything Around Me. So I don't know. I might, who knows? I can't give out all my secrets of what that's gonna look like. So,
well, you were talking a little bit about brand and vision, and something that people might not know is that the brand and vision, the look of the Cannabis College, was obviously not created by us, but created by you. Tell us a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that logo is iconic now.
I love that logo.
I remember sitting in a car on like a phone call with the people in this room, talking through that logo, and opening up my phone to like look at the email and being like, fuck, like that is insane. Like the logo we had before, I'm sure people have seen it very.
It was long forgotten.
Yeah, not soon enough forgotten.
I don't even remember.
It was a leaf and the words Minnesota Cannabis College. But now we have a vision, a brand, something that really you helped us build. Tell us a little bit about that story.
So I had been following Marcus for a while just because I was like, when I got into cannabis, I immediately started following Marcus. Him and my husband had known each other in the activist world. Mm-hmm. So his name had came up in our household a couple of times. I had seen him at the Capitol fighting for cannabis. And I was like,
fighting for real.
Man, this man is literally living out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I fucking love it, you know? And one day I saw that he made this post hey, looking for a designer to collab on, Cannabis College and this and that. Because I had already jumped into the cannabis world, I was like, I've always wanted to make like a profound stamp before legalization. Like I just always knew in my mind, like I wanted to be a staple. I wanted to like make a stamp. I just wanted to be a part of it. And so I was like, I can use my talent. I still feel this way. I can use my talents and gifts in ways that will benefit the community and push it forward, push the agenda, make it professional. I've done it for companies that I could care less about. So why wouldn't I do it for? And it came out so naturally. Like the design came really quickly for me. And honestly, like it's probably like my most loved piece in my portfolio because it's just like, wow. Honestly.
I mean, honestly, if you look at, and I'm not exaggerating at all on everything. I hurt people's feelings when they ask for like honest opinions. Not like intentionally, but it's a consequence of asking for somebody's honest opinion.
Truth.
But this logo looks better than probably every higher education institution or nonprofit organization logo I've ever seen.
Well, thank you.
So, I mean, I think, and I'm biased, so make your own opinions, but I think it's phenomenal. I'm so grateful and so proud of it.
Well,
Thank you.
it's a logo that like went from your brain to
Mm-hmm.
stickers and shirts and bags and our website and like cans of cannabis products and like
Right.
so
Yeah.
much. Like honestly, it's I look at it every single day of my
That,
life.
and that's why I say like this particular project and that piece, like I have created campaigns. I've done it all, but like, and I've always got gratification from like seeing my work on cans or products or flyers. But this one was just like, it came together because one, it was so many passions coming together. Like it was the design, it was cannabis, it was all that. And like, again, making that like really, and I didn't even honestly know if you would choose it. Like I thought maybe you had other designers that you were working with. And like mine was just going to be an entry. So
Oh, shit. So you were being low-key competitive?
no, for
Oh.
real. Yeah, I was.
Oh, shit. No,
I was.
I was like, shit, we found the one.
No, for real.
Look
I
no
definitely
further.
was. So I was just like, just the whole process. That's why I like begged you for a T-shirt afterwards because it's like, oh my god,
Hey, I mean, we need to raise some money so we can get you like
a jacket, a Letterman
that part.
jacket,
Come on now.
please.
It
We'll get
look
you one.
better than the U of M
Oh
jacket.
my god, please, I will pay.
I mean, I
For
can
you,
charge you,
we'll
right?
get you one.
Please,
We'll make that
oh
happen.
my god.
Dollars together.
I wore my T-shirt to the mall one day. I got so many compliments, and the only thing I would tell people is, I made this logo. I made this logo. But
Yeah, that's a 10 out of a 10 right there.
it's such an amazing source of education too, which I absolutely love. If I didn't have a 3-year-old, I swear I'd be at every session you guys host. So, yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate that.
yeah, no, I would be.
Yeah, this is going to outlive us.
That's what I mean.
This
right?
is historic.
Right.
This is better than the Minnesota State flag.
Next time I'm gonna try my hand at it. We'll see.
Damn, you
The
should have
state flag,
entered that
right.
contest. Too bad. Too late now, but
So yeah.
chose something kind of weird.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I mean, it was such a treat to chat with you. Before we wrap up, we did have one final question. So we wanted to invite you on, obviously, to talk about NattyKakes, to talk about our brand, to talk about just so much. But also coming up in February, it's African American History Month.
Yeah.
You're one of the few Black entrepreneurs in the Minnesota cannabis space. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of what it's like, and then looking forward to the future, sort of what you think Black entrepreneurs need in Minnesota to really be successful in?
Sure. So, I see both sides of it. I see, for me, it was, I had a lot of great relationship with a lot of key players, a lot of people in the industry already planted. When the bill was going through its first revisions, I have a homegirl named Wintana. She's really connected to politics, and she always hits me. She invited me to a collective of Black businesses, about 6 of us, that had a call with the author, the bill author. And she wanted us to speak candidly, ask questions so that he can gauge what we as Black and brown entrepreneurs needed, which I valued. I loved that. But I also, I see the flip side of like, a lot of us don't have the collateral, the liability, the insurance, all those things to first get started. I haven't dug too much into like the grants and things like that that are available to Black and brown companies. I would love to see that. I would love to see more around. I'm sorry, I could go down this rabbit hole, but we're addressing business owners, so. Yeah, I mean, I would say stay the path, build relationships. My relationships have it has put me in rooms and places that I've never dreamed of. There have been players along the way that have just loved my product and so really stay true to like, to what you're doing.
I love that.
Consistency. The consistency is like crazy everything. If your product is consistent, not from week to week, not from month to month, but from year to year, I mean, believe in that. Believe in yourself. Build relationship. I can't express that enough. Build relationship. Put yourself out there. Take the risk. I mean, in the cannabis world, everybody is so cool. We're all stoners. What do you mean? Like, what? Cannabis brings everybody together. So, like, be unwavering in your courage.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can I make one additional question?
Always.
So, I mean, I'm familiar with y'all a bit offline, but can you tell how valuable your husband's support is with you building this brand and like leveling it up past the legacy market? Like,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
because I see him like beside you at all these things.
You better be.
Yeah, and I'm like, how valuable is that?
It's
Having that support at home.
It's priceless. Honestly, it's priceless. I wouldn't even have taken the leap if he didn't believe in me. If he didn't invest in me. He continues to invest in me, just emotionally, financially, physically. He's there to help, dragging cookies in and out of pop-ups, like with no payment. So
Shout out to these relationship
shout out to
goals.
Mr. G.
The Givens.
But no, he is build an amazing support system around you. Even if it's just one person that believes in you, you got to keep them in your circle.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for sharing.
man, he is my rock. He is also my flower guy. So he's going to be my flower acquisition as things legal up, and we are dealing with farms. He's also going to take that over, and I'm just going to be the person that says, yeah, I like it, and then that's it. So look out for
the
Mr.
buck
G.
stops there. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly. Thank you so much for coming on and talking.
Such an honor.
Marcus mentioned your Instagram a bit earlier, but if people want to go and learn more about your brand or maybe place an order, where can they go to do that?
So the official website is in the works, which will streamline ordering. But for right now, again, I'm small batch, small but big batch. But again, like I am still very hands-on. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a message on Instagram, leave a comment.
What's the handle?
My handle is NattyKakes, Natty, all K's, Kakes. So NattyKakes on Instagram. And from there,
Seeing is believing. Tasting is believing too.
I'm gonna and then from there we'll launch the website. But that's where you can get a hold of me. And please go take a look. Go see all my magnificent creations that I love to make
Talk
for
your
you guys.
shit.
So, yeah.
Love it. Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. People can
Please
click right on that.
do. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, we'll be right back. Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by my co-hosts John Barty and Marcus Tarkus. Production assistance from Shayna Payton and Steve Eigen. Today's episode is presented by North Star Law Group, your trusted partner in Minnesota's burgeoning legal cannabis industry. The information provided in this podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. Information shared may not constitute the most up-to-date or legal information. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking their own legal counsel. The opinions and views expressed on this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.